Hello, everyone. I am going to just go into more detail about tomorrow's severe weather threat across our area, around the Grand Strand area, but more specifically, or more generally, in the Carolinas. Um, we're going to look at the setup, look at what type of threats I think we're going to see for the area, and the timing and all sorts of things. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is our day two outlook that was issued earlier this morning, and we can see our enhanced region of possible severe weather across central North Carolina and South Carolina eastward toward the coast. Um, our main threats here are going to be damaging winds, where we have a 30% hatched. And usually, what that means, winds are greater than 65 knots within a 25-mile or point. It's actually down here. Um, so 70, 75-mile-per-hour winds likely in the hatched area. But on top of that, we see a fairly isolated tornado threat. It's definitely in a broad area, but some isolated tornadoes are likely in the 5%, but also closer to the cold core low pressure that will sweep across Chicago, closer to West Virginia, Pennsylvania. Hail threat will be associated with those the cooler temperatures up north, where that low pressure is situated. Again, here's that map. Here's a little zoom in here of the enhanced region. So first, I want to look at the upper air wind maps here. This is I'm going to do 850. This is going to be closer to the surface here. And I'm going to focus on the time frame Wednesday between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Okay, so this is Wednesday morning around 6 a.m. We can see, get this out real quick. I don't know but we can see our low pressure, well, our closed low, I should say, associated with this trough. But really, we can see this enhanced area of winds on the exit region of the trough, and this will be moving eastward towards the coast, toward our area in the Carolinas. Excuse me, let me back this up. So this is around 9 a.m. We can see this bulk of 70 plus knot winds. They're in the central Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina region around 9 a.m. This bulk of winds moves east towards the coast with the line of storms, with the line of convection. We see 60 to 75 knot winds across North Carolina and South Carolina toward the coast. This is going to, um, this is definitely going to increase any sort of wind threat, and that's why we have that hatch threat. Anytime we get around 70 knot winds near the surface, 850 millibar height, associated with a really strong low pressure trough, you're gonna see some severe wind, some sort of threat in that case, and uh, it's just perfectly situated in the Carolinas. And that is the NAM. That was the NAM 3K model. I'm gonna keep using the NAM 3K here. I'm going to look at dew points real quick. Very important. Okay, so this is Wednesday morning around 7 a.m. Um, this is around 10 a.m. We can see our warm sector across north, um, central South Carolina, east South Carolina, up until north, central North Carolina, and eastern North Carolina. We can see our dew points reaching 60s, even some mid 60s starting to creep in um, far southeast South Carolina. And this is before our line of storms. Our line of storms are back through here, and as those line of storms approach, we see our mid 60 dew points across much of the southeastern South Carolina, eastern North Carolina area. And this is going to be well more than enough to provide fuel for these storms that are leaving the Blue Ridge Mountains. And by morning tomorrow morning, these storms, once they leave those mountains, they're going to begin to destabilize and strengthen. And these mid 60 dew points are going to have a lot to do with that. Let's check the HRRR model, see what the dew points are looking for that model. I always want to look at several models here. So this is 10 a.m. A little bit faster. The HRRR, the dew points definitely the warm sector isn't as big as the NAM, but we're still getting mid 60 dew points southeastern, low to mid 60 dew points southeastern South Carolina, and central to eastern North Carolina. But not as big of a warm sector. Not as much fuel, but there is still a very isolated area where that really doesn't matter, where that instability and or excuse me that moisture will be in place. So let's just briefly go through what the radar could look like throughout the day today. So we can see our line of storms, our potential supercells that will go through Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi today, this afternoon. Okay, this is Wednesday morning around 7 a.m. We can see our line of storms exiting the mountain, Blue Ridge Mountains. And once they hit central South Carolina, you can see the NAM, you can actually see the intensification with the main line of storms. But once this main line moves eastward, you can see a lot more yellows and oranges start to pop up along the leading edge of the line. And this is around 9 a.m. Wednesday. So we have our main line back in here. But very interestingly enough, what I've noticed, we have our confluence bands right in here. Okay, what are confluence bands? Well, this is essentially, I like to just think of it as it's moisture being drawn into this cold front. Warm air will be drawn northward toward the low pressure, which is further north. But these storms, this cold front here, likes to feed into this warm air, and it likes to pull this warm air up into um, closer to the low pressure, which leads into the cold front. So these confluence bands will form, and sometimes if the event is a lot, especially if there's more instability in place compared to this event, this model doesn't really show the NAM, but maybe some gusty showers. And the reason why I'm not too worried, um, usually if there's more instability in place, more CAPE in place, those confluence bands um, would be something to watch. And this is why we have a clockwise rotation or clockwise motion in our hodograph, um, where it kind of curves off to the right. You can see that. Our issue is down here, if we see where my mouse is, we only have less than 200 cape and then only 23 cape. No cape at all, no instability. So these are essentially just going to be showers. Um, Maybe a quick spin up, maybe not. Don't think so. But the main line will come through by 1, 2 o'clock. Um, Let me look at another sounding here. And when that line comes through, we can see how parallel um, the photograph here is compared to what it was earlier. It doesn't really have that clockwise. It does some, but it's not as distinct clockwise motion. Um, it's very parallel, the blue line here too. So that leads to telling me that this main line is going to have a serious damaging wind threat. It has the potential to have a serious damaging wind threat of winds, probably 75 miles or higher possible. Um, which again, given the hatch risk, I can see why they put that there. Just based off the extremely strong kinematics with this system. If there was any more instability with this system, I think our tornado threat would be it would be increased by um, quite a bit. Let's go HRRR, look at the soundings and see what the radar looks here. This is today, this afternoon. I see that line of storms. Hits the mountains, kind of weakens some. HRRR, this is by 10 o'clock. You can see the main line right here. Um, HRRR does have some of those confluence showers, not many. Let's get a sounding when these confluence bands would be passing our area. No cape. Photograph looks okay. Um, but nothing serious at all. Once that line gets closer, this is around midday, around 12 to 1 o'clock. Okay, the photograph has definitely some more curvature, definitely some more instability. Cape around 700, three cape around in the 60s, but nowhere close enough to really um, make me think that that's going to enhance a lot of these thunderstorms and showers. Mainly the extreme kinematics that we see in our photograph. And this isn't really, um, I mean, it's impressive, but it's definitely could be worse. But it's a decently impressive photograph here. HRRR definitely not as strong with the line of storms as the NAM, so definitely interesting to kind of point that out. But I think main threat here, damaging winds up to 75 miles per hour. And then an isolated tornado spin up along that line. Um, wouldn't be shocked at all if we see a few tornado reports tomorrow, especially in this enhanced area, and especially southeastern South Carolina and more central North Carolina. Um, kind of like where my mouse is, kind of this where I can just draw. Um, I think this area probably will see the best tornado risk. Um, the western side of the enhanced risk. The wind threat is the wind threat is valid um, across that entire enhanced area. But just a quick video here. I think it's gonna be a pretty eventful day tomorrow across the area. Not everywhere is going to get very strong winds or even a quick spin up, of course, but um, widespread damaging winds are likely, and I'm very confident in saying that now. Tornado threat definitely less confident, but again, I would not be shocked, especially in the western part of this 5% here, to see a quick spin up. But if you have any questions, let me know. And until then, talk to you guys later.